All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, today we have to talk about the NIGHTWAVE. Starting with, before we get into the drama that came from nothing with the NIGHTWAVE, we're going to talk about some updates to the site. So, over on Brozime.com, I maintain a list of all of the NIGHTWAVE challenges and also easy ways to complete them, or just generally what it is asking of you. This is a searchable guide that you can find over on Brozime.com. It is both the regular weekly acts and also the elite weekly acts, and they are all searchable by name should you need any help with any of the NIGHTWAVE challenges, with the exception right here at the top of Ancient Obelisk, which is going to need a little bit of time to have just that one done, and those are actually going to get their own video up here soon, which is why that is the case. Otherwise, though, besides that one challenge that has not shown up yet, we are totally done with updating all of these, essentially, to being up to date, with the caveat that some of the new challenges have not appeared yet, so I have made a couple of assumptions here and there about what will clear them the easiest. That stuff obviously needs the challenge to come around and then be tested to make sure it works, but they, by and large, should. So, the site is all updated, should you need any help with any of those challenges. In addition, let's talk about what's been going on with the NIGHTWAVE. So, the NIGHTWAVE launched on the 29th. As expected by the community, we are looking at the new NIGHTWAVE with the new items, with 30 levels, with all the things that we would come to expect. You've got up to the 3 dailies that you can have. You have the 5 weeklies that we've had for, all of the NIGHTWAVEs, and you've had the 2 elite weeklies. And then, as was talked about for a full month since the last dev stream at least, we have the addition of these 3 permanent weeklies, which are kill 30 Xmas, complete any 15 missions, and then kill 500 enemies. These would be in addition to what we're used to, which is the 5 weeklies and the 2 elite weeklies, but would not be recoverable in future weeks. So it's like incentive to play week to week, and you get a little bonus and you progress a little faster, and that was cool and good. And these challenges are also very easy and very passive, so if you're just someone who's just playing, doing other stuff, you're kind of just going to get progress for being around and playing Warframe, which I think I can speak for pretty much everyone, because I haven't seen a single person without this opinion. That seems like a great value add for people that are just continually playing Warframe, and they're just going to naturally have a certain amount of NIGHTWAVE progress, and it's also excellent for new players who will not be able to do many of the challenges. This week is a bad example for that, because this first week has turned out to be very easy. But there are certain challenges that require certain quest progress and things like that before you're even allowed to do them, and those can be, of course, very difficult for brand new players, because they literally cannot do them. With that being said, hours after the update launched, we had some problems with these certain challenges, not giving the points that they should to get you the proper levels and stuff. That sometimes happens with NIGHTWAVE, and it wasn't a big deal. They ran a script and fixed that for everybody as far as I can tell, so that was no big deal. But alongside the announcement of fixing that, we have this message here, which included some revisions to how apparently this was supposed to work the whole time, which doesn't seem right. But this was, next week, the NIGHTWAVE will return to form with the 3 new permanent weeklies replacing 3 of the 5 regular weeklies per rotation. So, I went into this at length on stream for basically a full day because people were confused about what this meant, but permanent weeklies are non-recoverable weeklies. So the first thing that happened here is that I realized that we normally get 5 weeklies each week. And if you were to take these permanent weeklies and replace 3 of these, not only would that not make the NIGHTWAVE any better, there would be no additional points to get, and you would simply just lose challenges and have less variety in what we were getting from week to week. But also, with these not being recoverable, you wouldn't be able to just come into the NIGHTWAVE after 9 or 10 weeks or so had passed and then simply level the NIGHTWAVE. The NIGHTWAVE would need to go on for, at minimum, 19 or 20 weeks in order for you to be able to just do only elite weeklies and the 2 weeklies we'd be getting each week in order to be able to catch up, which is insanely longer, and also means that it would just be much, much harder for anyone to catch up, because you would be needing to do mostly elite weeklies, which the vast majority of especially any kind of even a mid-tier player, they're just not going to be able to do. There's too many challenges in there that are just not really doable, such as, for example, doing Profit Taker. Even having access to Profit Taker requires rank 5 Fortuna, which many players don't have. The list goes on and on in terms of what it would take to catch up in the Nightwave. Not only the much longer amount of time that would need to pass in the Nightwave, which we already don't want, but also like just the much more requirement-heavy stuff that would require, and would just be a net negative. So my expectation upon reading this was that, no, well, clearly we've been hearing about for a month that we're going to be getting, you know, the additional acts and such in here. And there we have a post here from Voltage. Thank you for putting all these together, whether you found them or not, of the previous posts from DE saying about these additional and the extra 13,500 standing each week and so on and so forth. And the full understanding that we had as a community that it was going to work the way that it released with the 3 additional permanent weeklies. So the further thing that is continuing to go on, which is neither like a correction or like new information. It's very strange what has happened now. Apparently, they're just going to make the change happen where these replace 3 of the weeklies, but now these are all going to be fully recoverable, which was very objectively never the plan previously, but they're doing that so that people can catch up. But the problem that then ensues is, why did we change anything about the Nightwave? I messaged Megan about this, replying to her on Twitter initially, but then, of course, Twitter has a very tiny amount of words you can use, so it required a little bit extra from that. And basically, these were intended to make it so people can more passively progress and, you know, be easier to get through and, like, you know, not cause, like, make it easier for newer players, I suppose. I'll like put up what was said here, and like I understand that like these are easier challenges that don't have the barriers in front of them, but making them recoverable, I think, is going to cause burnout in players, specifically because of this challenge. In general, the Nightwave is hugely varied, and you can see that even here, which is like, you know, just kill some enemies, do Clem's mission, go collect some Vohm or Foss residue, do K-Drive races, nightmare missions, you know, of capture, but do it fast, go to a survival mission. Even just in this week, which is, of course, very easy, there is a good amount of variety. You're doing a big, like, spread of things, and that, I think, is good and makes it so that grinding through the Nightwave a bit late is very enjoyable. Because you're doing a larger variety of different things, and especially as the like list of challenges has been more and more curated in like accordance with player feedback, with certain challenges like requiring you to do fewer than they like were before, like things like 10 different bounties or whatever have been like lowered down to like 3 different bounties or 5 different bounties or whatever the numbers actually are, in order to, you know, fit with player feedback and stuff. But if what's going to happen is you're going to have these 3 challenges every single week, and you're going to be able to recover all of them, for someone who's coming back, you're going to end up in a situation where if the Nightwave has progressed to the point where you can fully catch up with it and get to level 30, which is what I would consider to be like the benchmark for wanting to come and do that, that happens at about 10 weeks. For that, if we look at mission complete, this is complete any 15 missions, which means this times 10 is 150 missions. And while it's entirely possible that through the course of doing these challenges or whatnot, let's say you do 50 missions, that will leave you with 100 missions left to do, and not to mention the 5,000 enemies and, you know, the 300 Xmas you need to kill. And also the rate at which those get recovered. If you have any amount of time where you're not recovering the 15 missions and it's not contributing while you are doing some other challenges, that's just more missions that aren't getting done for this that you're going to have to do on the back end of recovery. So that would usually mean that we would opt for the most optimal thing, which is, of course, going to be probably running capture or, you know, something like that, something very fast, that if you are really experienced, you can run in like 30 seconds. But if you are a more regular player, are going to take like a minute each, which means that it would just be basically 2 hours straight for any regular person of just running capture to get all of that, you know, cleaned out of their Nightwave and finally be finished up, which is not necessarily a net negative. That's not hard. But I do think it's very boring, which is not ideal. I think it's considerably more boring than getting, like, a challenge that comes up. And obviously the problem with challenges that you can just recover are, oh, I can't do that one if you're not at the point where you can do them yet. But this way, I think it's, experienced players and newer players, especially newer players that, aren't going to be as experienced. Maybe they're not running a capture mission in a minute. Maybe it takes them a minute and a half or 2 minutes. I mean, the Elite Weekly is to do it in 90 seconds, right? Then we're looking at someone that is just doing captures for 2 hours straight. That seems like a very hard sell to me, personally, for someone who wants to catch up on the Nightwave and hasn't been doing it every single week. Obviously, these are good to do passively. And really, at the end of the day, I don't understand. I don't understand why we're not just going with what has already been implemented. It doesn't seem like it would be any more work for DE to simply not change anything. But yeah, I just don't know why things are changing. If the consideration is that this UI has to scroll and they would prefer it to not, the daily missions could very simply be removed. You could simply remove the 3 dailies and put the 3 permanent weeklies there. And I'm very willing to make that trade and have these still not be recoverable. The dailies already aren't recoverable, so having these be non-recoverable things that I think are overall better and would be better for the entire player base, I would give up on dailies for that pretty easily if it's about the UI being clean or something to that effect. But the UI being clean is really the only thing I can see as to a reason to not just do this as it literally is. The 5 weeklies with 2 elite weeklies and 3 permanents that don't recover, and then the 3 daily, up to 3 dailies that don't recover, is great. Like, my initial reaction to this was, this is a fantastic improvement to the Nightwave system, and I don't know what has caused this weird, we're going to remove 3 regular weeklies thing. That kind of feels like it came from nothing and is kind of a waste of time to do. Like, it feels like a waste of effort on DE's part to kind of effectively neither add nor take away anything from the Nightwave with these changes that I think I could speak pretty reasonably everyone was pretty excited for going into these changes. So yeah, it's confusing. I understand that these would be, like, better and more passive for newer players and stuff like that, but I don't think that these need to replace regular weeklies in order to achieve good goals around that. And I think that for people catching up, the variety would be a huge add. So yeah, I just feel like the original understanding of what these were going to be was perfect, and I don't know. I have not yet figured out what the reason is that we would not do that, because it isn't as if this doesn't work. It launched like this, at a small error with, like, the points going out, sure. But then it just worked. And everything seems good now. We could just not do anything to it, which would be preferable. So yeah, if anyone can figure out why D is doing this, let me know. If there's some, thought about why they wouldn't just keep it how it is now, besides the UI thing, which is the only rationale I could possibly think of, let me know in the comments. It has been a confusing time with the Nightwave for some reason. Seemed like it was an easy slam dunk here, and we're dribbling on the opponent's court right now. I don't know why. We're just still over there for no reason. All right, so we're about to be into the thick of it, with a lot of videos coming out. Thank you for your patience, everyone. And also, of course, as usual, thank you to the patrons, Alex Parnham, Angel SBM, Arbiter Daydream, Nuven, Plotomatic, Brandon Coggin, Brutus Salazar, Dylan Dworsky, Ethrain, Hafan, James Harthorn, JC4 Science, John Lobdell, Joshua Adams, Luzanth, Mikkelkel, Minty Ginja, Mitchta, Nerve, Remoxidate, Tamrielic Wastelander, The Coupon of Death, Tomeworm, Waifu Wars, and Zeraphir, and of course to all of the $5 patrons as well. It is hugely appreciated, with us getting into big free-to-play times, which should hopefully be excellent. Sorry if guides are a little floody on the inbox side, but it'll be a nice change of pace, perhaps.